Hanna Vanessa. This is my psychology channel where I help you understand yourself and those around you better. Today we are tackling emotions, specifically the social implications and decoding of your emotions. Knowing about emotions is so helpful in navigating just everyday life, I think, because we get scared of emotions sometimes and we don't know what they mean, and we just can't decode them. And if you're scared of something, there's a saying that you should learn as much as you can about it, and I think this is such a great way to not get scared and solve problems more efficiently, or communicate more effectively. If we are not in tune with our emotions, then whether we like it or not, subconsciously they're gonna control us. If we know about them, then instead of letting them use us, we can use them to our advantage. Okay, so now there used to be 6, but now there's 7 basic emotions, which are joy, sadness, fear, surprise, anger, contempt, and disgust. And then there are also secondary emotions, which kind of build upon the basic emotions or are entirely different emotions, but they are more specific or not as frequently felt or expressed. So today's video is mostly going to focus on sadness, anger, and fear, and secondary emotions which are tied to these 3 basic emotions. And my aim with this video is to help you also process these emotions, because, well, processing emotions deserves its own whole video, but basically the first step to processing emotions is acknowledging them. Naming them. So when you feel an emotion come up, maybe you can even name where you feel it in your body. And it is very important that you find a name for it. Some of us, we have difficulty with naming our emotions, even because it is our parents' job, basically, when we are little, to reflect our emotions back to us. And when they don't do that, or they don't reflect that specific emotion, or they don't name it, then we ourselves have trouble naming it or knowing it. And the second step to processing emotions is asking, what does this emotion want from me? What's the purpose of this emotion? Why is it coming up? Now, it's very important that we don't scrutinize our emotions, because they are actually very helpful. They are basically our first brain, if you will. They are evolutionarily evolved. They help adapt to any environment that we are in, and if you think about it, they also help us make decisions. Because, for example, when you're in the supermarket and there's let's say you're like in the milk aisle and there's a bunch of different brands and types of milk and stuff like that, emotions can help us quickly take action, because we're like, oh, this is the milk that I usually get, this is what I like, right? That's the emotion. And it's just so easy and it's automated, and this is what's great about emotions. They are also very, very important in social interactions, as you'll see. So let's get into them. Let's start with a subtype of emotions, social emotions, which by definition are emotions created in actual, imagined, assumed, or remembered interactions. And they are evolutionary, as I've mentioned, and they are tied to our need of belonging. Positive social emotions include love, pride, and respect. There are many more, of course, but just to give you an example. And negative social emotions include being hurt, when someone says something hurtful to you and you get hurt, like emotionally hurt. Jealousy/envy and confusion. Now, there are social interpersonal emotions, so another subtype within social emotions. The first one that I wrote down is confusion and shame. These emotions usually arise when others define our character, and we usually don't like that. Being hurt is, when another person rejects us or they criticize something about our character. Social anxiety, this is very interesting. It is the consequence of us perceiving that our character and the impression we make on others is incongruent. So our character, what we feel inside, what we have as an image of ourselves, it doesn't match up to what others think about us. And this is a very difficult situation, I must say. Some of us have difficulty acting in line with, what we feel inside, especially because of, the emotion of shame and, outside social pressure, basically. So yes. Loneliness is the feeling of us not having an important role in other people's lives, which is very true by definition. This is very true, I feel, and unfortunately, the only thing you can do about loneliness is to go out there and meet as many people as you can, because I think that's the only way. For a long time, I myself felt alone because I never had many friends. After years, I finally met someone in university who shares my values and my ideas, and I have to say the wait was truly worth it. So yes, you just have to find that person who gets you. It is hard, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, and the search can take a long time, and sometimes you just have to get through so many people, but you can get there, believe me. The next I wrote is jealousy. This is basically a loyalty check towards another person. Jealousy is different from envy, which we're also going to talk about right after this. Jealousy is also a thing between siblings, which I know for sure some of you have experience, some of you who have siblings. It is very normal. It can get messy and even lethal, but a baseline version of jealousy between siblings is normal. And there are social evaluative emotions as well, which is basically love and liking, as in choosing the best mate for us, or even if you have a partner, syncing the partners up. Okay, let's get to the juicy part, because I feel like these next emotions are really the ones that most of us struggle with. And I feel like understanding them is really, really important, and the social implications of them, because as you'll see, there are purposes. There is a purpose to all of these emotions. Okay, so first is envy. This is basically, in 2 words, neglected desires. So, right, this is the purpose. This is what I said this is what I was describing when I said that you have to, the second question is the question that you have to ask yourself in processing your emotions is, why? What does this emotion want from me? And envy is a sign of neglected desires. Envy is usually a compass of showing us what we want. Could also be an unmet need. My advice is to find a way to fulfill the underlying desire, even if you don't have the same thing that the other person does who you're envious of. So, for example, we are usually envious of money, wealth, or friends, like social connections, friends and family. And I would say don't go overboard. So if you're envious of wealth, then, for example, you could budget or invest, educate yourself on money, on real estate. If you're envious of friends, then the previous advice that I gave applies, which put yourself out there. My most important advice for envy is turn it into fuel. Turn it into motivation and admiration towards the other person. Nowadays, I rarely feel envy, which, feeling envy is normal. But if I do feel envy, it's more of I can easily just snap a finger and be like, just acknowledge the situation. Just be like, I'm envious of what this other person has, but I admire them so much for it because I know that they worked for it. Or, maybe if they have a lot of friends, maybe they are charismatic, and charisma can be trained. It's a skill that can be gained, taught even. So I just have such an easy time at this point in my life turning envy into motivation and admiration, and it's a sign. As I said, it's a compass towards what I want for myself. And whenever it arises, I just know that this is something that I would like to have in my life as well, and the next step is to work towards it. Next is anxiety. Anxiety deserves its very own video. Anxiety is also normal. Anxiety is another version of fear, if you didn't know. The difference between fear and anxiety is fear has an object. You know what you're afraid of. Anxiety doesn't have an object. And anxiety is so scary in itself because when it doesn't have an object, it's even scarier because it's fear of the unknown. And I've heard some other people, other psychologists and teachers say that basically anxiety and depression are energy waiting to be channeled. And I just felt that so deeply because when I'm anxious, I feel so much going on in my body. And when I do something, maybe like a sport or exercise or something like that, it is so freeing, and I do truly feel like the energy just leaves my body. It's amazing. But also, I think it was Irvin Yalom, who is an existential psychologist, who said that anxiety is so normal and you cannot live without anxiety. It's basically impossible. And that just really helped me in accepting my own anxiety. I was talking to my mom about being anxious about some exams, and I was telling her, like, in retrospect, I truly wish that I didn't care as much as I did back then, because I got through it and I'm still alive and I did so well and I'm so proud of myself. And she was like, okay, but this is normal. Like, I'm sure others feel the same way that you do right now, and it is so normal because it shows that you care. Like, of course, so for example, exams or even any smaller or bigger thing that you might be anxious about, of course they matter, of course you care, because it's something important to you. The next one is anger, and anger has a very strong social implication, which is keeping boundaries. So these are usually when our values, needs, limits are being neglected by something or someone, another person. Anger is tricky because it can mask other emotions or other feelings like guilt, shame, and sadness. Usually these are the ones. And anger helps us firmly and clearly communicate our boundaries. And the evolutionary aspect of it, besides the social implication, is territory aggression, which animals have, humans have. So yes, it is totally normal, and territory aggression is the background. We also had very strong territory aggression when we started living in groups. So yeah. Okay, the next one is fear, which I've talked about a little bit next to anxiety. But if you're watching right now, I would love for you to answer this question. What is your biggest fear? I'm sure you have one. I also have one. My biggest fear is losing my loved ones. But maybe you have something else. Maybe you have like a I don't know, even if it's not your like biggest fear, but maybe you're afraid of being average, like just being an average boring person, you know? And fear is great because it basically can show us what matters to us the most, along with anxiety, you see what I'm saying? And it's showing us our core values. And for example, if you're afraid of being average, it shows that you value depth and impact. If you're afraid of betrayal, it shows that you value loyalty and truth or truthfulness. And it also shows us what is worth nurturing in our lives. So for example, for me, my relationships. And for example, a lot of us have fear of abandonment. And my advice for that, you know, abandonment and attachment styles also deserve their own video. My best short and sweet advice would be to invest in your connections and in building trust with others, but also practice being alone. And a big tip is get securely attached friends. Now, this is kind of hard to navigate because, of course, it takes time to get to know people, and you can't instantly tell someone's attachment style, but the more securely attached people you have around you, the more securely attached you will be, which is just amazing and such life hack, to be honest. Okay, the second to last one is guilt. So guilt is quite an interesting one as well. It is when our actions don't align with our values, and it is basically a form of self-betrayal if you think about it. Yeah, so our actions are valued and values contradict. Guilt is really good at, it does well in reinforcing what aspects of our character are important to us. And the last one for today's video is sadness. So sadness has, alongside anger, has one of the biggest social implications, in that sadness expresses a need for attention and connection. You will know exactly what I mean once I tell you this. Next fact, our tears have different biological, molecular, chemical compositions based on our emotions. So happy tears and sad tears have different composition. This has a very distinct purpose, very specific, in that sad tears roll down the cheek slower. Which is just like, oh my god, like I love fun facts about people, you know. This is kind of my job. So yes, tears and sadness are basically expressions of our need for attention and connection. You know, it is when, you know, maybe you're walking with someone and for any reason you start crying, and it is basically a signal to the other person to say, please stop right now, and I just really need some care and attention right now. These were the emotions for today. We are at the end of the video. I really thoroughly hope you enjoyed it, that I could be of help, and that this video boosts your consciousness and your confidence in your everyday life. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed and subscribe. As far as I know, you can also hype videos, which I'm not sure how that works, but yeah. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you thought about these emotions, or what you think are your biggest challenges in regards to your emotions. And please let me know any future video ideas that you would like to see from me. That was all. Bye bye, see you next time.